Okay, so before I even get into the review of the comic, I want to preface everything by saying that this is actually the very first time I've read through a Vampirella comic book before. I can't even recall a time where I might have even flipped through one. Now, I do know of the existence of the character. The character's been around for decades. One of the most well-known indie comic characters. But yeah, never read a single issue that I can recall prior to today. Now, I do know that Manny had when we were growing up. I know he had read a lot of Vampirella comic books, so he's much more familiar with the character than I am. But we never talked about it. It's not something that ever came up really in conversation. I just knew that he read Vampirella, and that's about it. I just never had any interest. Now, the second thing I want to say is I also have never read anything by Christopher Priest. Shocker, right? Christopher Priest, I know, is an author that is pretty highly regarded by a lot of people whose opinion I respect regarding comics. I've been told a lot about his run on Black Panther and some other comics, which I want to read, of course, at some point in time. But this will be this was the first time that I actually read something by Christopher Priest as well. And it didn't disappoint. Not what I expected, if I'm being totally honest here. Not that I really knew what to expect, because again, I don't know the character, and when we see the character, how the character looks, you just think, okay, it's just a sexy, scantily clad vampire chick, right? But interestingly, there's more to it than that, I think. So it starts off with there being a plane crash, and this person comes up. The artwork is so-so, by the way. It's nothing great, but it's not terrible. But it's like it's so-so. So that's one of the few, I would say, gripes that I might have about the book, is that the artwork is it's whatever. But the book itself, though, I think is pretty decent, and what it seems like they're trying to establish here. So, plane crash. Little girl shows up, sees this plane crash, sees that this one guy, I'll go ahead and kind of focus in a little bit here so y'all can see, has survived the crash, puts himself back together. Gross. And when we move on here, we also see that, of course, Vampirella was seemingly a part of this crash as well and also survived. Now, this is one thing that I find to be interesting. I don't know if... I know... If anybody can tell me in the comment section below, is Affirm the name of the airlines that are in all the Vampirella comics, or is that something that has just appeared here in this book? Because I'm wondering if that's some kind of just subtle reference to anything, or some kind of subliminal message there that Christopher Priest is trying to give us. Let me know in the comment section below if that is the case. But so she survives this crash, and it seems like she's very, remorseful over it. She just kind of takes it in, and the next moment you see here, she's with what I believe to be a trauma psychologist or psychiatrist, maybe. I don't know exactly. But she survived this crash, so she's recounting what happened in it. What led up to it had to do with this character named Von Christ, which I assume is an established villain within the Vampirella universe here. But she talks about what happened, and what's interesting is this whole dynamic here, this whole exchange that they continuously have here, where she's telling him what she is, what happened. She's basically a vampire from another planet, which is something I didn't know, by the way, because, of course, like I said, this is the first time I've actually read through a Vampirella comic. She's telling him all about herself. So she's being honest here, and I'm thinking the whole reason she even went through with this, and again, I don't know anything about the character, totally an assumption. I would think that the whole reason she probably went through all this, the whole psychology, the whole therapy route, is probably because she feels some degree of survivor's guilt for being the only one to survive, but not just the only one to survive, but maybe because she couldn't stop this from happening. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not familiar at all with the character, so I don't know what her base motivations are and things like that. This is just me just assuming just from what I'm reading through here on a pretty surface level here. So there was obviously an issue here with this Von Kreese guy. She tried to stop him. He apparently is immortal, and but he's like the immortal that is basically, flesh decaying. So he's, I guess, some kind of living zombie for the most part. But she recounts everything that happened, tells this guy about what Von Kreese is and all that stuff, and what she is, and he's just not buying it. He's telling her, hey, look, what you're telling me can't be possible. None of that stuff is real. None of that exists. There is no vampires. You're not from another planet. There is no werewolves, which is funny. He actually says wolves instead, like he says like WFF wolf instead of wolf. And he basically just tells her, hey, look, the trauma you're experiencing, what's happening right now, why you're telling me all this is because you have some kind of dissociative disorder, and basically he's basically telling her that you're making all this up to kind of cope with this whole ordeal, which doesn't seem to be the case at all. Well, it's obviously not the case at all. I shouldn't say it doesn't seem to be the case, but is obviously not the case at all. She obviously is these things. She's being honest and forthcoming with him. But what's interesting was, I think it all ties back around to what's kind of set up in the very beginning. And I'll go back for just a sec here, just to kind of talk about this right here, because it ends on this as well. And I'm not going to show the whole. I'm not going to show the end page because I don't want to show the whole thing I don't want this video to get copywritten. But basically, it's right here. And this is what I'm curious about, because, and I'm sure Vampirella fans will get me up to speed on this. If you see this video, maybe you can kind of tell me what's going on here. But before I mention that, let me get over here to this right here. So she says, oops, hold on. Okay, sorry for the quick cut there, but this is what I wanted to talk about real quick. People call me Vampirella in my native tongue. The name is something unpronounceable, like a yodel interrupted by a wet fart. Mother just calls me the girl. So it's already kind of established here in the beginning, the whole thing, it's just mentioned, right? Just in passing, the mother, right? And at the very end of this comic, she's mentioned again. Now, I don't know if there is a hero and villain dynamic with daughter and mother, if her mother's a recurring villain in the series, or just another character in the show, or maybe some kind of anti-hero, or just kind of an uneasy ally or something like that. But it seems like they're going a little bit maybe of that psychological route to start off with. But it's kind of funny. It's just the whole banter between her and the psychologist is a funny bit, I think. And obviously he thinks she's full of crap, doesn't believe her, calls her crazy and all kinds of names as well. It's just like, listen, it seems like the character, the psychiatrist character, is based on a famous Hollywood actor that we all know that hates snakes on a plane. I don't know, maybe not, but just his demeanor and his way to, the way he is with her, how blunt he is with her, makes me think that that's probably the inspiration for this character. But it's very sincere and upfront. So I like it. Want to see where it's going, of course. Like I always say with these videos, I think it's an interesting start, and gives me a little bit of a feel for Christopher Priest's work, although it could be something radically different, because again, like I said, I don't know what to really compare it to since I haven't read his work before, but it gives me a little bit of a basis to start off with, to familiarize myself with his work, and hopefully at some point in time I will get around to reading some of his previous works. But anyways, let me know what you guys think of this video in the comment section below, and until next time, y'all know how it goes. Hunt continues.